Hi there, this is Jeanette Comerford, and this is day 3 of my Christmas series for 2016. Today I'm going to be sharing how I used products from Whimsy Stamps to create this cute little slider card. You can see that the little image is going to be able to slide across the card, and I'm going to share with you how you can add a slider component to your cards. The Copic marker coloring is not included in this video because I thought it would make the video a little too long, but I have listed all the numbers that I used below this video on YouTube, or you can also find them on my blog. So the first thing I did was I sort of laid out everything that I needed to create the card. I have my image, it's colored and cut out. I have some paper from the Winter Wishes paper pack, and you can also get coordinating enamel dots. I'm going to be using the largest rectangle in the hand stitch nested rectangle set, as well as a couple of the dies from the Pierced Border Trio die set. And then I'm going to be using one of the components from the Slip and Slide die set, and that's going to add the slider component to my card. So I'm going to do all my die cutting at the same time. I'm using that stitched rectangle to cut out my pattern paper. And then I'm also going to use some Neenah cardstock that I'm going to be using to create the snowbanks, and I'll cut that first out of the with the same rectangle. And this just makes it easy to line everything up on my card afterwards because it's the exact same size as the pattern paper. Then I'm going to take the different dies to create my snowbanks. So I'm going to have one sort of curved snowbank here, and that's where I'm going to put the slider component. So I'm just sort of figuring out exactly where I want it to be, and I will sort of put a little piece of post-it tape there to make sure that the dies don't sort of migrate towards each other. And then I'm cutting out a larger or a wider snowbank with this sort of hill die. So you can see the two different snowbanks I've created now. And you can see the die component is in the front one. I did try this another way with the die component behind, but it didn't really work as well, so I was able to sort of pull it off the pattern paper and start over, this is the second attempt you're seeing here. So I'm going to add a little bit of distressed ink. This is tumbled glass, just to, make the paper look a little less, I guess, plain or stark. It gives a little interest. It sort of makes it look like there is snow on that snowbank. And then I'll start gluing everything down. So I'm going to be gluing this one here. And just make sure that when you put the second part on, that you see just white. You're not going to see any of the pattern paper. And then before I put this onto the paper, I do have to add some foam dots, and this is going to make it easier for the slider component to slide back and forth. It'll be raised up off the paper, and just be mindful of where you're putting them, that they won't impede the slider component. I'm going to be actually using a penny, so you're going to want to make sure that the penny is going to be able to slide back and forth. Here I decided to just trim one of those little dots down. So I trimmed it in half and put it onto the corner. And then I was able to add that other little half up there at the top. So this was another sort of trial and error for me, that I realized you had to be careful how you place your foam, or your slider won't slide. Now I can sort of put that down. I'm going to press it down really nicely to make sure it's really adhered. Then I can put my penny in, and I've taken one of those foam dots and I've sort of trimmed it down to a little circle. And now I'm just making sure that it actually slides right across. So that worked really well. Then I can just stick the image right onto that little dot and press down really well so that I'm sure it's secure. And now you can see that she will slide back and forth. There we go. So another reason I had changed things up was because I really wanted that sentiment that's on the card. I wanted it to be on the back snowbank. So that was another reason I changed things up. So I'm going to be using one of the sentiments from the Snowflake Wishes sets. This is a clear stamp set. At first I thought I was going to use this one, but I felt it was just a little too wide. So I found another one that said Christmas Wishes, and I felt that it just looked better. And I also liked the sentiment in the end better. So I'm just positioning that down on the paper. I'll be adding my little enamel dots. These enamel dots are gorgeous because they're like glittery, sparkly, but they're not rough. They're very smooth. And they come in, I think, 3 or 4 shades on the pack. So super, super, super fun to use. And I really didn't have to do very much because the pattern paper has so much, interest in it. There's the snowflakes and those, I guess they're sort of like ornaments that are coming down. I'm not quite sure, but I thought they were so pretty. So I've created a A2 sized card base, again with some Neenah cardstock. And before I stamp the sentiment, I will adhere the top part of the card to the card base. So the easiest way is to just add your adhesive to the card base, because the pattern paper is going to cover it completely, and then just line up the bottom and then press everything down. Now for the sentiment, I didn't want to take any chances with making a mistake, so I decided to pull out my Misty tool, and this way I know that my sentiment will stamp exactly where I want it to stamp, that it'll stamp straight. And as well, if it doesn't stamp well the first time, I can go ahead and re-ink the sentiment and restamp it, and it will be matching perfectly. So once I have my magnets in place and the sentiment in place, just going to swing the little window down. I'm going to be using some VersaFine black onyx ink. I find that works really well for sentiments. I'm going to press down, and it actually stamped perfectly the first time. I didn't have to restamp. So now I have my little sentiment on the card, and my card is completed. So I hope you've enjoyed watching how I created this slider card. I will have all the product links below this video on YouTube, and you can also find them on my blog. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos in my Christmas 2016 series.